Today is April 1st, 2026. We're in part 1, First Responder General Address. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good rotation of the earth. May the peace of the Holy Spirit be with you. Welcome to the World Crown. We are in our 9th year. If this is your first time with us, I welcome you. I'm going to begin with an invocation to help atheists understand that we are not a secular organization. I rejoice and trust in you, my precious, tender Holy Spirit. Help us to understand what we don't understand. Guide us and teach us in the way we should go. This World Crown ministry is like previous ministries and comings of man. It includes justice, common sense, and the teaching of being born again. You must be born again. You have been born again. And you will be born again. Okay, that said, the teaching of being born again is important, and it is not important. I've always felt that it's better not knowing too much about it, not thinking too much about it, or even forgetting it, but never denying it. For the knowledge that you will be born again can be quite therapeutic to a life filled with regrets. Cult gurus have given reincarnation a bad reputation, adding unnecessary information to it, elaborating too much on it. Being born again is a teaching which coincides with the cycles of life on our planet. It happens that every soul is always in a state of existence, much like the flowers and trees of our world, which renew with each passing season. Year after year, a soul watches nature renew itself. In the same way, every 80 or 100 years, God watches our souls renew. Our souls are always being born again to the earth. Our existence is a process, one in which we knowingly and unknowingly collaborate with. And so, like nature renews itself, regardless if we believe in God, so too are human souls born again to the earth, even if they don't believe in being born again. It is very important to my Holy Spirit how being born again is presented to the human condition. I believe that God's Holy Spirit does not want us to be cultists. And when cultists want to mix us in their reincarnation talk, it can lead to other very bad things, such as sacrificing of children, talk of aliens, and even suicide. And so thoughts of being born again should simply be accepted and put away. Jesus did not force us and simply said, you must be born again, and you will be born again. In many prior ministries of man, you have been taught to avoid cults because they are not all good, though good, can be found in them. Besides, life is filled with too many things to do in the present and in the moment. Nature is a wonderful way to get back in touch with your own holy existence. A normal existence for the soul inside the human condition is one where people live, die, and are born again without feeling it, always forgetting the heaven they came from and always awakening into a world which is always progressing, always getting better. Being born again is existence. It should be like believing and trusting in God's Holy Spirit, something which adds quality to normal daily life, one in which we age slowly, watch ourselves get old, die, only to be born again. But in order for existence to work at its greatest efficiency, human behavior must be flawless, like the unconditional loyalty and love demonstrated by a common dog, man's best friend. When a person is in a committed, positive, healthy relationship with their pet, we see the best kind of response from the animal, because that animal is perfectly loved and fed every day. I am a believer in a world in which most of us live in, away from computers and television, a world where souls need lots of ordinary time to focus on the daily meal, basic things, and becoming educated and learning something good every day, working in a job they like, getting married, and raising children, what some might call a boring existence. If boring is the worst thing that you experience in life, think of it like a blessing. Nature is a blessing and can be just as boring as life. But consider the birds and animals and nature which exist, gets old, dies, yet it is always being replenished. Nature is an organism, a life force, similar to our own. We are and are not part of nature. Like nature recycles and is always being born again all around us, so also are our souls always being born again. But our souls, unlike those weeds you hate so much, return to heaven. Every time you are born again, you will get a new name. In one life, your name might be Rose. In the next, Lily. My name for this current life of mine is Jose Maria. I am your host. See how unsensational that sounds? Being born again just happens. One life we're Mike, and the next we're Fred. We do appreciate the fact that we are born again when educated about it and taught to expect it. Welcome to the World Crown. I welcome doctors, lawyers, psychologists, psychiatrists, educators, tradesmen, business owners, workers, government workers, military personnel, professionals of every field, first responders, religious, and good everyday people. The World Crown and all its emergency services were established for your protection and safety above the laws, norms, and standards of all nations, and a status quo which continues in a general decline. The world crown was established with the guidance and blessing of God's Holy Spirit. This means the world crown is a collaboration between my Holy Spirit and myself. The world crown was open to take responsibility for the judgment of God's Holy Spirit, 1919 to the year it closes, then open a new era. It does not matter if you believe or not in God or in the world crown. Not believing in God does not stop the normal processes of our existence, such as the judgment of God, which is always in effect. The judgment of God's Holy Spirit is necessary. It has demonstrated to its children that they can exist and even thrive under the most evil of governments. There are some governments better than others, but no government should teach atheism. The human condition struggles enough in its normal cycle of existence to be told that God does not exist. The world crown again reminds you in the here and now that God does exist. Reminding you sometimes feels like a waste of time to me, because deep down in you, your soul already knows God exists. So what happened? Most of you know what happened. Your wings are cut so you can't fly. What happened is like a young bird who was born and has to learn to fly all over again. It matures to the right age, flaps its wings, and says, I'm going to give this a go. But its parent says, stop, wait. There is no such thing as flying. But I see other birds flying, responds the little bird. Those are crazy birds, the parent says. Don't fly. There is no such thing as air. You need air to fly. But there must be air, responds the little bird. But the parent says, the state, eagle, says there is no flying and no such thing as air. Humans are conspired against regularly by unbalanced and unhealthy men and women, religious and atheists alike. That same little bird is later told by its parent that the state eagle overturned itself and said that it's okay to fly, but not to soar, which to humans would be the same as saying you can believe in God, but not too much. People in groups are segments of genetics who, with or without religion, might go in any direction, from atheist aggression to killing and sacrificing animals, children, women, and men. So it is easy to understand the need to govern correctly and always be teaching the human condition about God, religion, and history. Our God, who is always with us and which never dies, is the Holy Spirit. I also call our Holy Spirit the Holy Existence, which helps to balance us. The human condition is but a small, one might even say insignificant, part of our existence. Why? Because humans are temporal creatures, unlike the soul, which lives forever. The soul always has the same identity. but the human does not. For example, Jesus, still the official patriarch of the church, became man again. And since his time as Jesus, has, like your own souls, taken on many different names. Man or woman is the best way to understand even your own existence. Because on earth, as a human, you really don't know who you are until you return back to heaven, which is your more permanent and lasting existence. Whereas your soul is always you, your human manifestation is not. Further, as a human, you might live and die in ignorance, having broken no laws, knowing no God. Yet your soul will return to heaven. But not all atheist humans fare so well in life. Human existence goes bad when cult and atheist men and women with bad intentions take control of people's lives, militaries, and governments. The World Crown is here to make sure the human condition is fixed. And in order to fix it, God's Holy Spirit must give regular, verified, and qualified justice and bring into subjection segments of corrupted humanity that have lost all reason. These segments of humans conspire and collaborate to cover up their crimes, cover up God's power, cover up God's existence, and cover up God's justice. We sometimes call them terrorists, temporary people, segments of humans whose ideas, and especially their militarism, are unfit to govern. And so the World Crown has the added responsibility to make sure good religious teaching returns. By comparison with the world's religions, the World Crown's teaching is safe, requires no statues, sacrifices, or idol worshiping, which might not always coincide with everyone's beliefs, but is teaching that is sound in principle. Now, I do use statues in my home and offices to add a touch of sacredness to my life, but I do not use statues in the same way those who sacrifice children, animals, women, and men use them. Statues also exist at the Versailles, where no blood rituals take place, at least not to my knowledge. The human condition, a continuing, ongoing, ever-changing organism of tremendous power, is your earthly home, into which your souls are perpetually born again into. Inside bodies, your souls still need to be ministered to, or else you could go feral. A public ministry of the Holy Spirit has again opened to renew understanding to the human condition as it exists in the moment and extract from it your souls, that you might be able to look at it, examine it, and see what went wrong. I pray and lift up your souls to my Holy Spirit, so you can look down upon your temporary state from a greater perspective in order to understand yourselves better. So you can, when afforded the opportunity, prepare this world and make it better for each other. When you who are trapped in a human body finally grasp the reason and purpose of your existence, you will find peace if you did not have peace before. You might find yourself an atheist today, but in your previous life, you were a believer. Such is the riddle of the human condition, inside which men and women achieve religious mastery in one life, only to find themselves as ice fishing Eskimos in their next life. Being a common person living inside the human condition is something we all revert to, no matter how religious, how atheist, or genius we are in any one life. Knowing you will be born again is good news, a form of psychological freedom from the many erroneous ideas of religious and atheist men and women. Your freedom is the assurance that the life you live now is not all that there is, but simply a point in time in the history of your soul's existence on this planet. One where your soul will return back to an earth that your feet know so well. Each second of existence is priceless. Each serving of rice, a blessing. This ever-changing psychological organism of ours, called the human condition, are a cluster of genetics, a collection of unique individual bodies which, working as a collective, sustain each other and sometimes repel each other. A cluster of genetics are unable to understand itself as an organism, but through its maker, who lets it be, watching its parts age, grow old, and die. But not before it has, like a queen ant, planted many eggs, which carry on, always recombining the DNA they carry. With humans, most human couples leave a unique genetic print of their genes, which recombine to create children which express a variation of their parents' genes. Left alone without any religion, these processes ensure survival of the species created by God's Holy Spirit, but do not guarantee great innovation and great civilizations will come into existence. Because we have in every century worked to appease our Holy Spirit, we have much better homes and cities. But to accomplish what we have undergone many trials and tribulations on this earth. To know what our souls have to work with, let us look at our humanity with the eyes of science. A family represents a group of genes. A street with many houses, an even larger grouping. A city, even larger. a state, an even larger group, and a nation, a potential mob of genes, if they are not civilized. All our gene pools of humanity have needs, which genetics alone cannot provide. The need to know about God, which is essentially not necessary for survival, is important and a basic human need. When denied good religious teachings, humans can go in various directions, unable to understand the meaning of life, the purpose of their being, or the religions of their past, which together with history are supposed to teach them not only about God's existence, but to expect interferences from God's Holy Spirit, which is very important. And so how we write history and shape our religions and governments is very important to how, as humans, we come to perceive life, this world, and our existence. You are the children of heaven, who live between heaven and earth. You must be born again. You have been born again, and you will be born again. As humans, you have to follow rules, laws, and always demonstrate good moral conduct and facilitate good environments and good governments which are friendly. It's so very simple. Don't hurt each other. Don't conspire against each other. It sounds easy, but humans fail to master the most simplest of commandments. And because we, as the children of heaven, fail to master life on earth, the human condition is subjected to interferences from God's Holy Spirit, who takes time to judge us and also be among us in the human condition. So we don't feel like we got kicked out of heaven, which is what some religions teach. Traditionally, we refer to these interferences into our existence on earth as divine intervention. Historically, the organism of the human condition, once it has been judged of its worst humans, which failed miserably to conduct themselves on earth during their time, corresponds to the Holy Spirit's divine intervention. Not just in judgment, the Holy Spirit is a regular event in our lives. It is dependable, like the sun, which rises every day. The Holy Spirit is the reason and basis for all our religions. Anyone can have a personal relationship and daily communion with my Holy Spirit, even inside their home. They don't have to wait in line. People walk with and carry their precious, tender Holy Spirit inside them. The human condition has historically responded to the Holy Spirit by organizing and rallying to create, if not to always have, good governments and good religions on this planet, which goes to promoting the future welfare of each soul in existence. Each major religion is its own organization and part of a greater organization in the greater perspective, and that would be us, the world crown, the government of heaven. The government of heaven is the only religious administration at this time approved to accept responsibility for the judgment of God's Holy Spirit, 1919 to the present. The government of heaven is also responsible for making sure all governments, religions, education, and major businesses are judged and corrected. The presence and success of the world crown is a lesson to the human condition, whose largest religious bodies have lost the true meaning of the gospel and the meaning of their existence. You are the children of heaven, from the worst of you to the best of you, from the most unbelieving to the most believing at any given time. We have been down this road before many times, when our souls are awoken on earth for judgment. This public ministry of the judgment of God is done to finalize a period of years where we have been in judgment. Right now, those years are 1919 to the present. If this is your first time, let me catch you up, especially if you're an unbeliever. God's Holy Spirit is the reason we love so much, the reason we cry so much, and the reason we have faith. It does not matter if you were taught to be an atheist by your government. If you don't believe in God as you should, what happened to you was a conspiracy. Religion is also not perfect, but we have to try our best to believe in God's Holy Spirit like we do space, the stars, and the universe from which we come from. We must try to believe in the goodness inside our souls, which comes from our Holy Spirit. Otherwise, we might waste what could be a good life. And so, our Holy Spirit has to remind us regularly and teach us directly through things like the world crown. We're using men and women in all the religions who try their best to teach you about God. A careful, steady judgment of God's Holy Spirit, which has judged the propaganda for many years, 1919 to the present, has shifted into a visible public ministry in order to take responsibility on earth for the judgment of God. Responsibility is required when humans are brought to justice by God's Holy Spirit. There must be a reckoning with humanity as to why men and women of supposedly respectable status are judged. The current judgment of God is the first judgment of God's Holy Spirit, 1919 to the present, to be overshadowed by mass media, radio, television, the internet, virtual reality, and AI, things which create the political illusions of our world, one filled with a leadership grid which seemed untouchable. If a popular leader got judged, the conspiracies of every nation and news and major businesses collaborated to cover up or occult the judgments of some of the world's most beloved and charismatic leaders for their crimes and conspiracies. Check the records at Interpol's emergency service for a partial list of men who have been judged. News and information are in a general state of emergency. You will read that often and frequently in our government writings. The news and information emergency affects every category which is critical to life: health information, business information, investment information, educational information, weather information, meteorological information, scientific information, organizational information, religious information, government information, information on television, information on radio, and information from wireless services are affected. But as monstrous as propaganda is, the Holy Spirit always has everything under control. The goal is for humans to match the resolve that our Holy Spirit has for this world. Welcome again to the World Crown. If you are new to the World Crown, this post is our first responder address, segment 1 of our 3-part monthly presentation. Our first responder post is emergency information, which does not change very much, but it is updated as needed. The table of contents for this page are as follows. General address, section 1.1.0. The status quo, section 1.1.5. Communication, section 1.1.7. State of the world, section 1.1.8. What is the World Crown? Section 1.2.0. Prayer from the World Crown, section 1.2.1. The Oracle, section 1.2.2 and 1.2.3. State of Religion, section 1.2.5. The Prophet, section 1.2.7. The Judgment of God and Musical Chairs, section 1.3.3. Business and Banking, section 1.4.1. United Nations, section 1.4.2. The Crown Corporation, section 1.5.1. The Internet, section 1.5.2. JC Angelcraft, section 1.6.1. Regulation, section 1.7.1. Donations, section 1.7.2. Economy, section 1.8.1. Law Enforcement and Firefighters, section 1.9.1. Transitional Governments, section 1.9.2. Health, section 1.10.1. Emergency Services, Current Advisory Measuring Authority and various topics, section 1.11. through 1.15. World Health Information, Section 1.16.1. Education, Section 1.18.1. Solutions, Section 1.19.1. First Responder Faith, Section 1.20.1. Conclusion and Prayer, Section 1.21.1. Earth Prayer, Section 1.21.2. Our first responder sectional videos are pre-recorded and updated as needed. If you are a new reader, we suggest you read all the sections because the World Crown is the government of heaven, as we advertise. The World Crown is substantiated, otherwise I would not waste my time. I'm a very practical man who does not like my time wasted either. I also have 2 aging parents who I love very much and who require a good amount of my personal time. The World Crown is an emergency organizational solution for our world. Since starting 9 years ago, we have received no complaints or calls to agree or disagree with our presence. The World Crown is the better status quo. Stick with us.